This episode had the energy of 50 feral cats. I am speechless. As always, it's Sunday. We gotta talk about episode 5 of The Chair Company. I'm going off the cuff, off the dome. I just watched it, went in these eyes, and now I'm here to talk to you about it. Full spoilers. And so if I forget anything, please be sure to let me know in the comments. I have really enjoyed just seeing people's reactions and talking to people about this show and what we all think the theories are. It's really cool. So thank you for following along. And if you're not watching The Chair Company or you're not caught up, leave a like, come back, because this is, again, full spoilers. I gotta break this down. So, at the end of the last episode, the cliffhanger was that Stephen Draco called Ron and told him that he had Ken Tucker. And so we all assumed, or at least I did, does he have this guy? He's got him? Where is this going? We have to get to the bottom of this. Go find him and see what's up. Turns out Ken Tucker is not Ken Tucker. He is an actor, and he happens to be on a Spot the Difference game at some weird random bar. And watching Mike play this game and just keep saying oh, she's gorgeous, was so weird, so funny. And it's just he's got a weird thing. We're going to get to Mike Santini because he is integral to why I'm speechless in this episode and why I was laughing for at least 10 minutes after it was over. But let's stay with Stephen Draco for a second, because Ron's talking to him at this bar, and two things are revealed. One, Steven was the one who screamed in episode 1. He was the scream that Ron heard while he was on the toilet because of the deviled egg. And that is wild. I'm glad we have that answered. And it turns out the reason he screamed is because allegedly his boss worked there and he was trying to go into the pipes and get revenge on his boss by getting the boss's turds and putting them on his desk with the date and time that he took them. And that was his plan, his masterful plan. That's what the papers alluded to. The papers were his notes, I guess, or about his plan and what he was going to do. Very weird, just goofy, just very I think you should leave. That would be the revenge plot was, I'm going to take your turd and I'm going to put it on your desk. Insane stuff. But that is only the tip, the absolute tip of the iceberg for this episode, because where this ends up going reminded me of, if you've seen Babylon with Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie, there's a sequence in Babylon that this really reminded me of, and if you've seen that movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So eventually Mike beats this game, this Spot the Difference thing he's playing, and he sends Ron the photo of the credit of who played Humpty Dumpty. Who is the guy that plays Ken Tucker? Because Ken Tucker is an actor. It turns out that this guy was just there, and apparently Red Ball Market Global is now a shell company who just hired people to pretend to be the role of a CFO or a CEO or the board. So no one's real. They're all just actors who had their photos taken in front of these things to make it look like it was a company. And it turns out the guy who was portraying Ken Tucker is someone named Oliver Problo. And Mike decides, I'll tell him we're fans and we'll go meet him. And that's what they do. And that is where I'm telling you, this show goes to places that I couldn't laugh at a certain point, even though it was really funny, because I was devastated by what was happening to Ron. And we're going to get to that right now, because they go to meet Oliver Problo. And at first it starts out fairly like the usual goofiness, you know? They go to this weird seedy bar, and they meet the guy, and he's acting a little weird. He's talking about how he was, trying to do things to be Scrooge, because every year he plays Ebenezer Scrooge in A Christmas Carol, and he's just trying to, he's going to the bar, he's going to a jail trying to be Scrooge. It's like this is very, I think you should leave thing. Obviously, it made me think of Scrooge fighting the skeletons. I feel like every episode has had a little hint that made me think of a sketch from I Think You Should Leave. But anyway, they're at this bar, and there's this weird stuff going on. He's trying to get answers from Oliver Problo. The guy's going off about how he wants a drink and all this stuff. And then there's a guy across from them who is he's almost putting his elbow into a soup. And Ron turns around and is like, hey man, watch out. You don't want to put your arm in the soup. It's about to hit it. And the guy just has a problem with him. And he's like, what? Why not? Why can't I put it in the soup, right? And this slowly escalates until the entire bar is going AWOL. And it turns out, revealed by Oliver Problo, that these are people who are all on Coca-Cola, let's say, because I don't know what I can say on TikTok, so I'm going to refer to it as Coca-Cola. So all of these people are on Coca-Cola, and essentially Some guy also recognizes Mike Santini, and he's like, hey, a lot of people would like to know that you're back in town. And everything starts getting more intense. Oliver Pablo goes to the bathroom to go buy some Coca-Cola from a guy in the bathroom. Turns out he's paying him with Scrooge money. Fake money. So all of this comes to a head, and they are chased around. This turns into a zombie movie, essentially, because Ron, Mike, and this guy, Oliver Pablo, are sprinting to the car. These people are in World War Z mode. They're chasing them. It's so weird and intense, and it just takes a turn at the drop of a hat. And I really enjoyed this sequence in the show. It was really something that was like, where are we going with this? There's even a moment where a woman is literally hanging out of Ron's car. And there's this crazy stunt, very well done. It looked incredibly dangerous, but she ends up rolling out of the car under the door. And I was shocked that they managed to get that, and it looked so real. They're being chased, but they still managed to go down the street to Oliver's apartment, where he says that he has an iPad containing emails to a woman who was in charge of the shoot for Red Market, oh my God, for Red Ball Market Global. Finally, I got it. I'm going to leave that in. This is a chaotic episode. This is a chaotic video. So we're trying to figure out who this woman is so we can go further down the thread and see what the deal is with Tekka and what the deal is with RBMG, I'll say from now on. And as that's happening and they're in his apartment, it still gets somehow stranger. Like, they are going through the 7 circles of hell, it seems, because everything is set up in this one moment. They go into the apartment and they show a guy sitting in a car, and you're like, what is this going to be? And he's all like shrouded up, and he's got a mask on and a hat. You don't know what that is. Like, who is he watching? Where's this gonna go, right? And then, of course, the zombies come flying out. They're all, like, still angry. A guy's climbing a pole. They're trying to bash the door in to get Oliver because he's, all of this stuff is going on. And then a door opens, and there's a woman in Oliver's apartment, and he's like, get her out. She's not leaving. Oh, my God. I don't know what I was watching. It was so chaotic. This episode really just had the energy of a feral cat. Actually, I take that back. It had the energy of 50 feral cats, because it is just nonstop from here on out. And it felt like the episode was 10 minutes because of it. Now, as all of this is going on, Ron is trying to get the answer from the iPad. Who is this woman? We find out that he just remembers that her name is Maggie S. That's all Oliver remembers. He's trying to find it on the iPad. He can't. The people come crashing through the apartment. Earlier, there was a man that Ron hit in the dent of his head. And that's the guy that he was like warning about the elbow in the soup. He shows up. He's there in the mob. Everybody's trying to grab these guys. And of course, Ron gets knocked down. He's got to fight this guy. It has all hit the fan. And of course, the guy who sold Oliver the Coca-Cola comes in and he grabs the iPad like, hey, this guy's got no money. I'll take this and I'll sell it, I guess. I guess that's the mentality, is I'll take the most valued item in this apartment. Of course, we can't have that because that's got the only answer that leads up the thread. So Ron gets up and he is sprinting after this guy. And this is the moment where I could see that it was just hilarious. Like, my brain was like, this is so like written well and so funny, and it's just like a weird scenario. But I was so sad that I couldn't laugh at it. Like, I can laugh at it now because it's insane. But in that moment, I felt so bad for Ron. Because in chasing this man to get this iPad, he goes through a door. And in that door, it's a dead end. It's just a room where this guy is making out with this woman. Turns out that guy's cheating on his wife. And the guy we saw earlier in the car with the mask and the hat was someone waiting to catch this guy that his wife hired to see if he was cheating. And now this dude pulls out a piece, and he is pointing it at Ron and telling Ron that you can't tell my wife I'm cheating, and so I have a great idea. We'll make it so that you and Gretchen here kiss so you cheat on your wife, and then we're even. And Tim Robinson's acting in this scene really goes a long way, because he is terrified, and he plays it so well, and it just made me so sad because they do it. He films Ron kissing another woman, and I just felt so bad that this happened to this guy, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. It was truly the moment in the episode where I was like, this is the 7th circle of hell. I don't understand how we got here, how it happened so quick, and where it's going to go from here. But I hope we can at least get the iPad out of this. But of course, no. Ron comes out of that room, gets throat chopped by the iPad, and then wakes up in the hospital. Which honestly led to a really nice moment in the friendship between Ron and Mike, because he says, no, that guy's my brother, that guy's family. Let him in. And then they have a nice little moment where he's driving him home, but they make a stop because Mike has to see his daughter, who evidently is getting married because he has a save the date sticker on his refrigerator. I don't know how I haven't talked about that yet, actually. Ron goes to see Mike Santini at his apartment, and this had me cracking up because in this apartment, there's screaming, there's things banging on the ceiling, banging on the walls. This guy lives in a war zone, and we go in there, and he's listening to more Wazy Waynes, which is so funny, and he's like mouthing along with it because he knows it that well, which means he's listened to it a lot. And that whole moment where he's offering Ron the food, the chicken, that he doesn't even know if it's chicken, that was really good. That was a good bit, and just the screams, the final scream in that scene, just it really got me. So moving back to the end of the episode, Mike comes back from seeing his daughter, and he reveals to Ron that he feels like he hasn't been there. He hasn't been a good partner. He hasn't been a good dad, and he wants to not look back at his life and think he was a bad guy. And so he's trying to patch things up. And it has this nice, sweet moment between them where Mike says, "I'm not gonna charge you anymore, Ron. I just want to help you because it's the right thing to do." And so there's this nice moment where their friendship is like, it has hit its peak, and now they're buds, like they're bros. And so we see Ron go back home, and the song starts playing. Rainy days and Mondays always get me down. I thought it was a great song choice because, one, it adds to the final joke of the episode, which I'm about to get to, and I don't know how I'm going to talk about on TikTok. But it also it hits you with that melancholic feeling of where are we going to end up on this conspiracy? Is this really going to destroy his life? I think it might. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, or rather the Ebenezer in the room, because it cuts back to Mike Santini watching TV. And he's watching A Christmas Carol, which, this joke hits on so many levels to me. Number one, of course, it was funny enough to me that it just shows Mike watching A Christmas Carol after what he tells Ron about, wanting people to be there at his funeral and not look back on his life as being a bad guy. So that was just funny off the bat. Two, the reveal that it is just an adult film, which, of course, Mike Santini would be watching that version of it. Three, the reveal of the nightgown being lifted up and that the ghost of Christmas future, the Grim Reaper, is just a hot woman under there, and it's just like the most ridiculous shot, and you're like, holy crap, they're showing this on HBO. Super funny stuff. And of course, what makes it so funny to me, the fact that I think it is just a genius joke. You don't think it's going to cut back, because why would it cut back? No other show would probably do that. And the final frame of this is it cuts back, and you see what's happening, and that had me laughing for about 10 minutes after. Just the hard cut from that final shot to directed by Aaron Schimberg was hilarious, and it's just like they pushed it as far as they could go, and that's really what made me laugh so hard. And that's what I love about the Chair Company and its humor, is that they take it to a place that you can't predict, and then when they go that extra mile to like really make the joke land, it really lands. At least for me it does. I mean, let me know if you feel the same, but I just couldn't believe it was so outlandish at the end of this episode that I was laughing for like 5 or 10 minutes after. I just couldn't stop. We also have to talk about, too, when Ron was in the hospital earlier in the episode and the doctor comes in and she asks him like if he had another like head injury or brain trauma, and he says yes, and I believe he's referring to when Mike hit him with the pipe in episode 1, at the end of episode 1. And I'm wondering if they're going to go down the route of it's all a mass delusion, if this is playing into it, because she does say another one will have severe effects. And, I don't know if that is going to be a reveal to say, oh, when he fell in the chair, that was the first one, and now this is technically the third one, and so, of course, things are going off the rails. I don't know how much I believe that they will go for that. I think if they do end up going that route, I would prefer it be that it was a delusion or something character-wise, instead of something like if it would cut back to him in the chair laying there, and that he was knocked out, and then this all happened in his head right after he fell, if that makes sense. I don't know, the it was all a dream thing, I feel like you have to do it really well to make it work, to make it land. I think they can do it, but I don't know. Let me know what you think. I prefer if it wasn't that. I'd be okay with it if all of this is just a coincidence and that he's just stumbled upon something, or if even it is all real and it was just like the punchline is just that because of this thing he stumbled upon this path and it turns out he's right. I'll take any of those. But if there's one thing that's clear, the chair company is still operating at a high level. And just technically, this episode was really well done. It has a sequence in it, which a lot of the others don't. It's more of action focused, I guess. It's more tense. And frankly, it's the closest thing we have to a horror movie in this world. Like, it's the closest thing to a horror I think you should leave. And that to me is very exciting. And I'm just so, as always, so excited to see where this goes, especially next week. Let me know what you think of the episode, any theories you have, what you thought of that final shot, and as always, I will see you next Sunday for the next episode of The Chair Company on HBO.